I mentioned the city of Worcester, and we're joined here this evening by Bob Moylan. Bob Moylan was the Commissioner of Public Works, recently retired. It is a new term for Bob, but was Public Works Commissioner in the city of Worcester, and was the commissioner who implemented their pay-as-you-throw program there. And as you can see, very, very significant solid waste reductions in Worcester. And Madam Chair, if it pleases you and the committee, I'd like to ask Mr. Moylan to come up
Sure.
and talk a little bit about the program.
Thank you all for having me here. As Steve indicated, my name is Bob Moylan. I was Commissioner of Public Works in Worcester for 21 years and spent 42 years in my career in Public Works in that city. And just very briefly, in 1993, we had a budget crisis. And we had sustained each of the prior years because of a budget shortfall. We had to continue to reduce the workforce of Public Works. Usually when the budgets get tight, Public Works happens to be one of the departments that is most often looked to try to help make up budget shortfall. And so we had been reducing our workforce, and we were being asked to do it again. And it was my first year as commissioner, and I simply went back to our city manager and said, we can't reduce any further. The analogy I made is, you're asking me to play baseball with fewer than 9 guys. I can't do it. So we need to think about something innovative. And the innovation eventually drifted to solid waste. What can we do in solid waste to try to find a way out of this budget shortfall and conundrum that we were facing? And in a meeting held in June when we were finalizing the city's budget, the city council, on a 6-5 vote in favor, followed our recommendation to implement pay-as-you-throw. Now, this was a critical vote by the city council. It was critical because there was no community in all of the Northeast anywhere near the size of Worcester who had implemented a pay-as-you-throw program. And as we would hear very often from folks, was that, well, it might be able to work in that town over there. They're more green than an urban area like Worcester. Or the demographics of that community, perhaps there's more affluence, it can work there, but it can't work in Worcester. And we heard all that, and the city council heard all that. And so it was a courageous vote on their part to vote 6-5 to go in favor of 2 things. Implement pay-as-you-throw in 3 months, and also, again, this is 20 years ago, also implement curbside recycling. At the time, we had 5 or 6 satellite facilities where people who were inclined to recycle could bring their recycled materials. As a result of that, we were recycling about 2% of our solid waste. Now we went through the process of following the city council's dictate of getting this program up and running in 3 months. The fact of the matter is we needed more than 3 months, and so we needed a couple of more months, which they gave us. And so our launch date for the program was November 29th of 1993, the Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday. Prior to that, we had an election of city councilors in the mayor's race, and we had 2 strong contenders, both coming from the Worcester City Council. One who was in favor of the program, and one who was opposed to the program. And the fellow that was opposed to the program, and the race largely essentially hinged on that one item, on that one issue. And the fellow that was opposed to the program essentially said, if you vote for me, I will repeal the program when I take office. And on election day, he had his campaign folks out in front of every voting precinct with trash bags on, reminding the public and the voters that if they voted for him, he would repeal the program. And guess what? He won. He won. But 3 weeks later, we launched our program, and while there was great consternation and great concern, including one of the local radio stations going off air and devoting their full program to how the first day was going to go in Worcester. And I remember the disc jockey on that station saying that he was not going to comply, and that he referred to me and said, Moylan must be taking Rolaids that are about the big of it, that they're the size of truck tires. Well, the program got launched, and it was a remarkable success. And all the fears about illegal dumping and all the fears that were conjured up never came to play. And that DJ ultimately did come around to comply. In fact, within the first couple of weeks, our compliance rate, defined by how many people, how many households out of 52,000 were not complying, was about 98 or 99%. Not only that, within 1 week, our recycling rate went from 2% to 38%. And not only that, our waste stream was cut in more than half, all in 1 week's time. And the savings that we had analyzed and believed that we could realize through the program was, most of it was plugged back into public works. And it was essentially a requirement of mine that we were not saving the money, and I say this with my public works hat on, we were not saving the money for another department. We were saving it to provide other services that were being demanded and sought by the citizens of Worcester that we were, up until that time, unable to provide. So this money freed us up to provide those other services. Services like free bulky waste pickup happens to be one that I do recall. The new mayor took office on January 1st, and he was unable to secure the votes to repeal the program, counter to what his whole campaign was about, because the program was so successful and so well embraced. And Worcester went from being a community that didn't think it could get it done to suddenly becoming in an elite group within the nation, where currently we recycle over 50% of our waste. And I would say, because I've looked at the demographics of Manchester, and I know you're a public works director and he's a great professional, that the similarities between Worcester and Manchester are nearly equal. And so for any of the doubters who thinks that it can't work here, well, I would say that they're wrong, because it can. Now, that having been said, I can only tell you what our experience has been in Worcester. After that election in 1993, and after the implementation of that program in 1993, solid waste, trash collection, recycling is not an issue at all. The only issue that arises from time to time is what should the cost of the bag be. Not any change in program, not any change in methodology, because we've been, as we've gone along and evolved, we've improved. We're now at single stream, as I'm sure you are. So the only debate has been, should we be increasing the cost of the bags? The bag started out at costing 50 cents for a large bag and 25 cents for a small bag. A large bag being defined as a 30-gallon bag and a small bag as a 15-gallon bag. And since the implementation of the program 20 years ago, the large bag cost has increased to $1.50, and the small bag has increased commensurately to 75 cents. It doesn't fund the entire program, but it does create a large subsidy to the program. But most importantly, it's the engine that drives the change in behavior on the part of citizens to simply recycle more. And I heard part of Steve's presentation. The fact is, when I used to drive down Worcester streets in the days of green and black bags being left at the curbside, it was not uncommon at all to see 4 and 5 and 6 bags in front of a single-family home. After the program went into effect, you would see 1 bag. And statistically, at least in Worcester, the average use is 1.2 large bags per week. I happen to live on my own. I generate 1 small bag per week, so 1 15-gallon bag per week. And I try to recycle as much as I can. We have we take the full spectrum of recyclable materials. So again, I say for Worcester anyway, it's been nothing but a positive program, and it would be one that I would urge you to at least look at. Worcester has also been a model for Portland, Maine. They came down and they studied our program in great depth, and their program is modeled after our program. And I think, although I haven't spoken to those folks in a number of years, I would, the last time I did check with them, they were very much supportive and pleased with the outcome of the program and that it did everything that they were hoping that it would do. I'd certainly be glad to answer any questions that any of you may have.